Alexandria Sanitation Authority, now known as AlexRenew. We have a motion from the board to approve the agenda as it appears.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We have Dr. Wall. That's great. Madam Secretary, do we have any members of the public?
No members of the public.
Board, if you could take a look at the minutes from our meeting on June 16th. We'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, first administrative item. Election of board officers. I've talked to each of you about this. Is there any discussion or is there a motion?
I move, are we going to nominate all the officers at once? Or,
All at once.
someone else should do this.
Okay. Okay.
I nominate myself, so.
I'm well. I have to nominate myself. How's
Well,
that
would you
different?
like me to do
Can
this?
Mr. Jake nominate?
Ready?
Not sure.
Okay, I move we nominate John Hill as chair, Jim Beal as vice chair, and Becky Hammer as secretary treasurer.
Second.
There is a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. Last year was probably the most momentous year for AlexRenew, but I think we're on a track that we're going to continue that record. And I have to say, speaking for myself, but I know I'm speaking for all the board members, this is the source of enormous pride for me. And to be part of this wonderful organization is really the satisfaction of a lifetime. So it's great to be part of it. Thank you. Thank you very much. Board calendar, any comments? Mr. Carl, board calendar, anything? No?
Yeah, July 27th is our 70th anniversary of operations. So wastewater flow was first given in the plant on July 27th. So we'll be doing probably some stuff on social and then having part of our all team meeting and doing some trivia around AlexRenew's history. So 70 years since the plant went into operation, July 27th, 1956. We also added the board retreat, January 29th to 30th. We'll do a half day here and then Saturday again from 8 to 3.
Great.
And we're doing a forward thinking exercise for the organization. Not quite like the strategic plan, but thinking of how we continue to evolve as an organization.
Good. Any reports from finance and audit or governance?
No, sir.
Okay, moving right along at a lightning pace. Move right into new business. Item A, tab 3. Review and approval of write-offs for customer accounts.
Maybe before we get started, just also the staff, Larry, you want to stand up and name and roll, just so the board knows who you are?
Everyone, I'm Mayor, and I'm Amy.
Thank you. Mr. Phillips?
Chuck Phillips, Chief Operator.
I think Ms. Vian's going to walk through the presentation with respect to the write-offs, and then we're essentially going to kind of walk through the memo with the presentation.
Yep.
Maybe once we get to the end of the presentation, we can, go through and take action on tab 3.
Good evening. So the presentation walks through a little bit, looking back around on the fiscal year 2025 write-offs, as well as fiscal year 2026 recommended write-off recommendation for the board. And so we start with just rooting in that this is all derived from what is both criteria and authority established in the financial policy. So on this slide walks through for particularly inactive accounts, what are the criteria that we follow in order to establish a recommendation each year. And write-offs are done annually following this criteria. And there's a recommendation made to the board based on write-off authority that's established in the financial policy. The write-off authority is for the CEO. Anything under $1,500 can be written off, and then above $1,500 goes to the board approval of those write-offs. We follow a process every year to ensure that we are doing our due diligence for each of these accounts prior to recommending accounts that would be written off or approved for write-off from the board. So we start with due diligence of notifications through calls and letters to ensure that we've done our due diligence in reaching out to these customers. And this is all around making sure that whatever we can collect on through our own due diligence is done. And then through the discussion last year, we established a memorandum of understanding with the city of Alexandria to work through their established framework for collection efforts. And so additionally, for accounts where the balance is over $1,500, we're sending those accounts to the city for running through any collection efforts that are done through their established framework. Each July, we come to the board with a recommendation for write-offs, and then once those accounts are approved, we then follow the process for writing off the debt in our financial statements. A summary of last year's fiscal year 2025 write-offs. We came to the board with an amount, and as described, some of this is driven by the suspension of disconnections during the COVID era. And so we were seeing a higher write-off amounts. And just during that discussion with the board, there were two particular accounts that the board recommended approval for all of the accounts, but particularly to ensure that the CEO had determined that we had exhausted all collection efforts for those accounts prior to writing off. And so we worked with the city through their established framework. To date, we have not recovered any additional funds for those accounts, and we also sent the remainder of accounts over $1,500 to the city as well. And at this point, because of the established statute of limitations that's in the financial policy of 3 years, we are recommending to write off the total amount for fiscal year 2025. So that is included in the memo recommendation of just documenting what happened from last year. For fiscal year 2026, there's a recommendation for the board's approval. This year, a total value of $145,000 across 310 accounts. And the board authorized approval of accounts over 1,500 is $88,854.52. Again, I think we're kind of coming along through this period of disconnections were suspended for a number of years. We returned back in those disconnections were resumed in 2024, and we're seeing some of the delay of impact from accounts that were delinquent through that timeline. So this is moving through that with a higher write-off recommendation this year, and anticipating that in the coming years we'll start to see that move lower. We went through the top 10 accounts and looked at, based on just amount of delinquent balance for each of those accounts, and did our own research on the status of each of those accounts. So you can see that across the 10, there's a mix of commercial and residential accounts. It indicates the total value and the status of the account. A lot of the residential accounts have been closed. There's a potential opportunity, especially using the city's existing framework, to pursue additional collection efforts for some of the businesses that are indicated here based on our research. That, for instance, the second one is still in business, it's relocated, so there's a potential ability to pursue additional collection efforts through the city's process. So The memo walks through this, all these slides. It's capturing what was summarized in that I just walked through, but for fiscal year 26, there's an amount that the CEO is writing off. There's an amount for residential, just based on that over the last year, that residential accounts, there's less opportunity for additional collection efforts for residential accounts once they've been closed because of the limit data that we collect on our residential customers. But on the commercial side, we're recommending that the board approve the write-off contingent on additional collection efforts through the city's process. So the recommendation is a twofold of requesting the board approve all the residential accounts that are included in the write-off amount that are over 1,500, and a contingent approval for the commercial accounts that are over 1,500 until we pursue additional collection efforts and the CEO determines the remaining amount are not collectible.
Ms. P, just so we get the numbers right. So the board is approving write-off in addition to what the CEO can do by himself. Write-off of about 88.8 thousand. Is that the number we're working with?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we're gonna run into the same challenge we did last year. You know, the residential accounts, most of them ended up hitting the statute limitations, you know, went through the city process. You know, the city does, the reason we are leveraging the city's process is because they do have more tools at their disposal than we do. We leverage a firm called TACS, that's who's doing the collections on behalf of the city, as well as supporting us. So we're coordinating directly with them based on the MOU. But for, you know, this was our recommendation, I guess, based on last year. It's really hard to get and find residents. Like it's been tax spent most of the year trying to find somebody and find where they move and getting letters sent, and then they start their letter process with those residents. It was a little easier to find businesses, especially if they're still in business in Alexandria or nearby. We were able to find them a little bit easier. We weren't successful in recovering any funds, but that's what we learned through this 5 years. Our recommendation this year was to have the board authorize a full amount of 88 and change, and that includes all the residential. And then we were going to go through another year-long process for those 10 commercial accounts and see if we could recover any of the funds. Not write those off today, but we have the authorization to do so. Once we expend, what's going to end up happening is we're going to hit the 3-year statute of limitations before we get through the full year. It's going to end up happening since this debt is so old.
Got it.
And that's what happened this year.
Questions from the board? Now, in terms of the amount we have in arrears, if I remember right, we have currently about 775,000 in arrears, right?
So lower.
This will lower it, right?
No,
60.
separate.
Yeah, and that's, so this is inactive debt.
Oh, okay.
Separate.
That's okay. Okay. I want to make
So
sure.
if you added 2 together, it's, you know, if you go back and expand, you would add.
Yep. Yeah.
That 145 to the current number, which is 6 and change, which is, I think, the lowest we've been since
Since way pre-COVID.
2022.
Yeah.
2019.
Pre-COVID. Good. Okay, so we need a motion that mirrors page 4 of the memo, right?
Chair, I move that we approve the write-off amount of 88,850,452, and subject to the CEO determining amounts owed from commercial accounts not.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well done. We got Dr. Wong all the way from France. Okay, moving right along. Changes to the LEAP program.
So we discussed this last month. Ms. Hammer brought up some questions, and we went to work soon after the board meeting. I know we've traded some emails over the last, feels like the last board meeting was like 3 days ago. Over the last month, and we came back with Mr. Robertson's presentation this evening with some proposed enhancements, some of which are up on the website already, because we already discussed that before from a ease of enrollment standpoint.
So I believe last month we discussed some language changes to leave Mr. Focus noted, but we also had a few additional opportunities to expand the leave disbursements. We had briefly mentioned we were exploring with promise pay in particular. We have a few ideas here that we want to share, and in order to make the changes to expand these, the leave program, adjust the policy as it's written. So just to kind of set the stage with participation on our payment assistance programs today, you can see the leave participation. We've helped about 240 customers, and this is easy math because we launched the program 24 months ago. So it's roughly 10 customers per month. As far as payment plans go, you can see we've had extraordinarily consistent participation over the last year, but that's true for the last 2 years or so. I looked recently, we have about, it ranges month to month, but typically we have anywhere from 40 or 50 participants complete a payment plan per month, to give you kind of an idea of the level of participation. So it is higher than the, that seems to be, if you look at the disconnection report each month too, you can see more customers tend to sign up for payment plans than they do request a leave disbursement. And they're getting both sets of information every month. So this tends to be the channel that they choose. Today, we have about 70% of our total arrears represented, of the dollar amount represented in payment plans. We have 359 customers currently on payment plans, which is roughly half of the number of delinquent customers that we have. So the participation is been great over year over year. So because that participation has been so consistent, it could indicate that we have, some customers that have ongoing customer issues or balances that they're still trying to come out of. And when we were looking at ways that we could leverage leave funds, one of the things that we came up with is how could we help customers with leave funds, but also encourage completion of these existing payment plans that we've seen, right? We're all looking at the same chart every month where we're seeing the total surge account and the number of customers that are past due, and we're how can we help these folks? And I think this is going to serve as an additional channel if we expand, essentially open up leave funds to be used to encourage payment plan completion. So the other option here is, or the other thing we would point out here is we do have those long duration COVID era options, and that's sort of elongating or like lengthening how long the plans are each month. So we talked about this last time. We made some changes to the leave, and we don't need this in the payment policy, but just to cover this. We made some language changes we suggested, and then we also created our own form because Dollar Energy had just taken quite a while to come up with their own form. So as a stopgap, we've created our own form. We got 7 enrollments in the first week. We got an additional 3 this week. So that's a pretty good uptick in participation. That's 10 in 2 weeks instead. Typically, we see 10 in a month. And then the third change that we were suggesting is allowing leave to be dispersed more than once per year. So right now, the way the policy is written, you can receive 1 annual disbursement up to $1,000. What we're suggesting is adding some flexibility to that so that basically a customer has access to that $1,000 up to 4 times per year. So if that makes sense. So you could receive 4 $250 disbursements. You could take a larger disbursement of say $700 in this example, and you still have access to the 300 remaining, like later in the year, essentially, or the 12-month period. So just adding that level of flexibility there, where we're not limiting it to one disbursement per year. And I think that's important too, when we're looking at like a long-term program here, like not just trying to get out of arrears from COVID era debt, but essentially giving customers a path forward where they don't have to use this large disbursement once per year to cover a past due balance that's years old. This gives them a little bit of flexibility.
I think the other other note here is the process it takes to disconnect a customer. A customer could sign up every quarter and avoid a disconnection completely by getting late funds. It takes us at least 90 days just to get the customer into Virginia American Water system to be disconnected. So this also should, if customers take advantage of LEAP, eliminate disconnections or the potential for a disconnection because they can recover funds through LEAP and pay off their balance.
And I think kind of piggybacking off that, if a customer opts for a payment plan, which they often do now, they're still getting these disbursements. It also helps us kind of offset the number of disconnection for non-payment we have to do. So we're trying to come up with creative solutions to sort of limit that as an option for customers.
The language that's been updated on the website in the previous slide too, we've dropped the long-winded description of LEAP, and it's just called LEAP now on the website. And we've termed it more of a bill credit program, and we're moving away from the customers in need or needy customers. It's just now a bill credit program that can help you pay your bill if you need it. You know, you need it, it's easy, sign up here, here's the form, and we're off. So I know we shared that language with Ms. Hammer. If there's anybody else, once the board members want to take a look at that language and, you know, fine tune it, we can send it around, or you can just go to AlexRenew.com. Or up here too, if we want to.
Trying to destigmatize participation in the program.
And I think, so talking through the way we'd incentivize payment plans, it's a similar goal. Like, they're not going to have to opt into anything. This is going to be something that we roll out to customers as an incentive using LEAP funds. There's no language around, you're basically receiving a credit for completing a task. So it's incentivizing, and it's not in any way, you know, demoralizing. The way that we're suggesting that we roll this out is essentially, it's a baked in percentage, so something like 16.7%, so that it's equitable across different length payment plans. And the way that it's essentially 1/6 the payment plan. So if you have a 3-month payment plan, you're getting 50% of your third payment as a credit. If you have a 6-month payment plan, you're getting the 6th month of your payment plan as a credit. And if you have a 12-month payment plan, you're getting 2 months as a credit. And the way that works out is essentially the same percentage across all payment plans in relation to the amount that they owe. It will also, in theory, help reduce our debt faster, because if you're taking off 2 months on the 12-month plan, you're shaving 2 months off. So that's sort of the thought process behind it. Are there any questions about it?
Go ahead. No, you please go ahead.
Well, I love this idea. I think it's really creative. Have you run any numbers on how much that would cost on average?
I did. So for 12-month payment plan customers, we would probably spend about $10,000 to $15,000 and we have a pretty high completion percentage. So, it could range in there depending on what percentage complete, but I would think it would go up with an incentive to be.
Mr. Robertson, you said completion percentage. Just off the top of your head, what portion of our 360 folks are on the payment plan?
Mm-hmm.
How many of them do you think are going to see it all the way through?
So we have a metric that we track. It's called on track. So they've continued to make payments, and it's 84% right now.
Wow.
And I would think that would increase if we're providing an incentive, but that's a guess.
And that's an incredibly successful program. You know,
We have-
70% of our folks in arrears are on payment plan. And of those, 80+% are on track.
That's correct. And to date, we've collected $1.5 million through just promised payment plans.
I mean, I think this idea of an incentive is a great idea.
Now that also, I should say, the 10 to 15,000, that's payment plans today.
Mhm.
Right, but we're getting, anywhere from 40 to 50 payment plans each month. So it fluctuates. We're gonna have people drop off and we'll have new folks come on. It would be an ongoing incentive. It's not just frozen. It's a little hard to guesstimate.
And just to clarify, so this would be paid for with LEAP funds specifically?
And then we would not, the other piece of this is we do not want to count the incentive piece against the total $1,000, which is written into the policy suggestions.
Yeah.
This would be a separate pot, essentially.
So you're not concerned that we are gonna, that this would drain down the LEAP pot too rapidly?
I don't think so.
Okay, that would be my only concern.
We're at, what's our number?
It's at like 253,000.
Bringing in at least 15 a month, 15,000 at least. a
Yeah,
month.
yeah. Well, we're currently giving out looks like around $9,000 a month on average, sometimes less. So this would obviously increase that pretty substantially.
It wouldn't be 10 to 15 a month. That's like 10 to 15 total.
Oh,
So we're
total.
talking.
Total.
sorry.
Oh. Okay, that's fine.
So we should be.
I thought you meant
But it
monthly,
will-
okay,
It's kind of a moving target in
okay,
that people will continue to sign up for payment plans like today, frozen in time.
okay, great.
Annually.
So it shouldn't make that large
Okay.
of a dent at all.
This is great. I mean, this is a well-designed program.
Um, Okay, so just walking through the changes that we're proposing, these are written out in the memo as well and in the policy. We updated the leave language. We did not need that written into the policy, so that is actually done. We created the online application form, which is also complete, and we did not need to revise the policy for that. We do need to revise the policy to allow for the quarterly disbursements that we suggested, and we do need revisions, essentially to use it as an incentive program. The payment plans. And also noting that it will not count against the total $1,000.
Is there any more discussion on this?
Anything else you wanted me to add? I mean, that was very, that pretty much covered it, but
I think we need a motion.
The pull up the policy just to see that changes to the policy were rather minor on under payment plans. That's where the approach to leverage LEAP for payment plans is discussed, goes on to the next page. And then there's just minor changes under LEAP where we allow for $1,000 annually, and that's broken up in quarter. It doesn't say $250 per quarter. It could be whatever it is. It's just $1,000 for the year broken up by quarter, however you need it. And then we did put the note in there that the LEAP, if you take a draw on your payment plan from LEAP, it doesn't impact the disbursement of $1,000. So they're pretty straightforward red lines.
So if the motion includes the 3 bullets in the memo, that covers it.
I think we wrote it in the memo.
Yeah.
On
That's
just
fine.
adopt the changes to the.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'll move that we adopt the revisions to the payment assistance program policy that are presented here. Does that work?
Good, that works. All in favor?
Hi,
Aye.
thank you.
Ms. Hayward, thank you for helping design a great program. Great. Okay, moving right along. Tunnel system operations.
New infrastructure comes new worry. Right, how many texts you guys had? 11:30 PM.
That's right. Yeah.
Are they on site?
What's that?
Is somebody there?
Absolutely. They are currently there. Tunnel system has been in operation now for 23 days, 6 hours, 22 minutes, not that anybody's counting. We do not have a countdown clock anymore. We haven't continued counting. But we are obviously excited about the first couple events that we have seen the tunnel system in action here. There have been 4 overflow events where we've had measurable flow volume into the tunnel to date. Midnight or 1 a.m. or so, right after the 4th of July fireworks concluded in the city. We had 2/10 of an inch or 3/10 of an inch of rain that came in and filled the tunnel up for the first time, about 2% full. Our biggest event to date was last Friday evening. 1.3 inches fell. We captured 8 million gallons, which was approximately 44% of tunnel volume. To date, a total of 11.3 million gallons captured, and we have removed one roll-off dumpster. It was not full, but we've removed one roll-off dumpster of debris. So we've captured 0.8 tons of primarily leaves and debris.
And one
flowed in.
possum.
And one possum.
One possum.
Gross.
Yes.
And it was sad.
That was that. There'll probably be others. Tunnel system in action here. So I can get that video to play. Oh, excellent. So this is the clamshell removing some leaves from down at the bottom of the screening shaft. Not a whole lot in that scoop, but you can see the system is working as it's designed. I was excited. I saw this social media post by the Zebra highlighting the rainy fireworks that occurred on Saturday, July 11th, to celebrate Alexandria's 277th birthday. I include a little note here: River News contribution to the event, no CSOs. So we had no overflow events either that evening or the day before. So
Good.
we would have most certainly had an overflow that Friday ahead of the event. So it was, it's exciting with people gathering in Orinoco Bay. I don't know how many were cognizant of the fact that there was 8 million gallons of combined sewage that did not go into the river the night before. All right. As you know, the work on River News is not 100% complete yet. We're about 94% in terms of construction costs expended and work completed. Ongoing here at AlexRenew, we need to continue the operational demonstrations for all of the ancillary systems. This is everything from odor control to building mechanical to the HVAC for the tunnel system. The superstructure interior is ongoing, as are all of the finishes and the audio visual that will be installed and facilitate this new training space for AlexRenew. There'll be work on the photovoltaic system and work on the facade of the building. So, and then of course completing the landscaping, paving, and site restoration still remain as well. Upcoming work here, still elevator installation work for later on this year when it gets delivered, and we're tracking certificate of occupancy for the building upon installation of that elevator and completion of the remaining work inside. At the Royal Street site, landscaping and restoration is ongoing there. There's still a little bit of work on the permanent utilities and permanent power. Continues to be a challenge just getting that permanent power connection to the Royal Street site and the Pendleton Street site. That work is ongoing with demand. And upcoming work, odor control system commissioning there. Once we have the power delivered to the site, we can commission the odor control system. All the equipment's been installed, so it's just a matter of getting that started up and integrated into the tunnel system, and then turn it over to National Park Service. The other work that's occurring at Royal Street site here is the Potomac Interceptor rehab work, which is ongoing, getting ready to start the bypass pumping for that, which will kick off the work to actually replace the 150 feet or so of pipe. We replace that. Out at the Pendleton Street site, the only real remaining work here is swapping out the light poles. So sometime in the next 2 weeks or so, we should go out and do that with the lighting that matches the rest of the waterfront lighting in the city. And then same startup of the odor control system here before we formally turn this over to the city. Any questions on remaining work?
The electrical hookup at Royal Street, what is that electricity used for? Just lighting?
Yeah, it's lighting, it's powering the electrical cabinets there that are connected to all of the flow meters and level sensors that we've got in there. And then odor control.
It's very fans.
They're little activated carbon systems like we have out in the NMF. So it's a fan that goes through a radial flow activated carbon unit. They're baby little units that we turn on if we need to when the tunnel's full.
Wow.
A quick snapshot of AlexRenew spending to date by locality. 34% of project funds have been spent here in Alexandria, totaling $203.5 million. Expanding that to Northern Virginia, 46% of total funds have been spent. So an additional $72.4 million in Northern Virginia, 6.1 additional million in the remainder of Virginia, and then rounding out the DMV here, total of 78% spent in Maryland and Virginia, with 160.6 million spent non-publicly. So 594.8 million spent to date. Program spending by contract, Trailer Shay, the design builder, is the largest line item here at 415 million spent to date. BC is Crown Caldwell, the owner's advisor. It's been here since November 2017, 91.6 million to date. And our resident engineering and inspection contract is $34.7 million spent to date. Completed wastewater project before we got going here. That was the building J, demolition and others, 53.6 million. And then program spending cash flow, like I said, a couple slides back, 594.8 million spent to date. You can see the blue curve on the total spend of 649 million sort of continues on a trajectory for that final year. That's because it includes the tunnel service agreement, that first year service agreement contract. So otherwise you would see a flat line as we finish out the design build primary scope of work. All right. Any questions on progress or cash flow?
We've had over the years the graph of the estimated costs, so there's really been a flat line and then either 25 or some percentage high or low. Could we see one of those just to see where this compares to what the estimates a few years ago were?
Sure.
I know this is, we're right on track with what we had once the contract was awarded. But I'm just curious how much this varies from what we were looking at 4 years ago.
It was 615.
Yeah.
I'm putting the 615 line back on there, but it's gonna be higher because of the year delay. We incurred more cost,
Yeah,
soft cost standpoint.
sure.
And then we added in the Potomac Interceptor and
Mhm.
1-year service agreement, but we show that.
Hmm.
I don't think we want to put back on the long-term patrol plan at like
No.
370,
No.
but yeah, we can bring that in. Original.
This has been a model project.
Good question.
Yeah.
Sure.
Dr. Rock.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
The question that I'm having as far as invoices, are we up to date on invoices payment?
Yes, we are up to date. Is that true, Caitlin?
I'm just waiting.
Okay.
I was gonna say,
No, because usually when you say spending, if you don't pay invoices, your numbers basically, they don't reflect the reality. The second question what I'm having is that as far as claims are concerned, we don't have anything out there we think is gonna, the contractor just gonna come at the end of the job and just put it on Justin's lap and just say, hey, you owe me this.
Maybe back to the spending piece, Dr. Juan, I think when we get our pay apps in, they get reviewed pretty quickly by the owner's advisors team and the RE team. And then Caitlin and Lake get them paid within like 7 days. So it's not lagging, for 30 days or more with payment. So this is, up to date as the most recent pay app that we received.
yeah, this is up to date through the end of June.
Okay, and no big claims out there, we are expecting the contractor just gonna send it our way here.
That's correct, Dr. Juan. We're tracking changes. There are a decent amount of changes to close out at this point. But in terms of exposure, we're not looking at costs that exceed the contract value, and we're not expecting any claims right now from the design builder that would be a surprise at the end of the job.
I think the
Well,
lesson
thank-
learned there, Dr. Juan, is we managed this twice throughout the job. One, we had the big escalation issue back in 2022. Was the initial time we had sort of an agreement to manage escalation on the job. And then two, when we extended the date by a year, that wiped away any claim before the date of extension. And we haven't, like, as Ryan mentioned, we have not had much since. I think our exposure is, $2 to $3 million of change orders that are normal on a job of this magnitude that we're going to work through. Plus, we are accruing liquidated damages since July 1st. What is it? 40?
$20,000 a day for 60 days, $30,000 a day, 16 days after July.
It's for the elevator.
That's for substantial completion. So contract substantial completion, remained July 1st, 2026. That's scheduled substantial completion. When the contractor actually achieves substantial completion, then we will settle up and sort that out.
The met completion. So now we are LD, the final. So
For an LD to date. to
LD, against the final completion date, not a substantial, because they met the substantial completion date.
No. Yeah, they have not achieved the requirements of substantial completion.
It's operational, just not substantially complete.
Are they disputing that?
It's clear. Contract language is clear. We can't occupy it for its intended use.
Yeah, we're still relying on the design builder right now. We have an interim operational plan, in which we're coordinating very closely with the design builder, but because they're still in a construction posture and managing that as a construction site, we are managing tunnel system operations through their construction team. So until AlexRenew is capable and able of operating this system, has that certificate of occupancy in hand, and the contract work is complete to the point where we can say that the project is substantially complete, then we're not out there.
Okay.
Well, throughout the project, I have to commend the whole team for how transparent you have been with presentation of both financial data and progress data. As a board, I think we've been able to see month by month, as we climbed that hill, and it's really a real accomplishment. Not just the project, but the way in which you really kept the board public.
Just for the board, a couple things of being almost a month into this so far is rainfall has been incredibly hyper-local and spotty. So it's been hard for us to correlate you know, a GCA rainfall, or even where we have our rain gauges to get a real accurate number on that rainfall. So we're going back out into the system. We're putting in temporary rain gauges to better be a little bit more representative. Since the CSO area is so tiny, we want to be a little more hyper local with our rain gauges. You'll see these numbers differ than what we've said in the past and what we put online, because this actually, what we've been saying online is what we just captured in the tunnel. We have not been taking any credit for those flows captured via our tunnel. So what we're maximizing flow to the headworks of the plant through hooks run that don't go into the tunnel, that was making up, you know, about 10-15% additional flow. That we're not entering from upgrade. These have been modeled and vetted and calibrated through our model to make sure we are, you know, reporting accurately of what we're capturing. So we've been under predicting just by looking at the tunnel.
But this information isn't public yet.
This is the first time.
I'm very excited to tell all my friends.
Yeah. So the first time.
I'm not joking.
We
No,
ran the
no,
model.
Yeah.
Even when we ran the model, we had
You gotta
issues
work
just
in
by
bracket.
using the rainfall
Right.
runoff
You gotta
table to
work
be
in
able to
bracket.
verify the number. And I guess the third thing is the wet weather pumps still haven't kicked on. So not even close. I think one event so far on the 10th put water into the tunnel from Hoof's Run side. And I think that's more because we had a bit of a lag at the plant of getting one of our pumps up and operating at the headworks of the plant. So to date, we still haven't operated the wet weather pumps, UV, or did the transfer of flow back to Townfall 1. So we exercised those for the first time yesterday.
Will the presentation online look something like this?
Well, no, we've got the nice dashboard online that we showed you.
Which is, I know.
It's just
that's
not
sort of
populated. It's still, I haven't pulled up.
Yes, we're gonna wait till the end of the month.
Yeah.
Populate it. So yeah, and then this is what we've got. Just, we were gonna do this. So this replaced the Revenue dashboard, Ryan's presentation. He's gonna do this monthly to the board. Online, it'll look something similar to this, but it'll be summarized on a month
Yeah,
basis.
not day by,
No,
event by event. Okay.
no, we're gonna, so just so you know, we are modeling event by event now.
Yeah.
We weren't gonna do that, but now we are. So just give us a couple.
No,
Bill. Can I ask
we
you a
know it's
modeling
working,
question?
right? We know it's working.
It definitely is working, but like, for example, the 718, right? We don't have Dr. Juan, to get to your question, why are we not at substantial completion? We don't have all of our flow meters in yet, right? So 718, it rained, right? Everybody in Alexandria briefly, it blew through in the afternoon on Saturday. It wasn't intense by any means, but it rained. And we're like, well, did we get any flow in the tunnel? I don't know. Monday, the pumps kick on. You're like, why are the pumps kicking on today? Well, whatever infiltration came in after that rainstorm got to the right level and had our pumps kick on. So going back and looking, we got a small amount of flow from these like very transient storms into the tunnel, and they're like 100,000, 200,000 gallons. So we're still flying blind a little bit until we actually, you know, something like that happens, or we get a totalized flow from the pump. And then it's being confirmed with our model data.
When you populate the online dashboard, you send out a quick text or email.
We'll be doing it end of next week. We'll have everything ready to go.
Okay.
And maybe we'll put out like a one pager like this to
For sure.
summarize it for the month, if you all like this.
This is very good.
And the 5-minute data from the rainfall isn't enough to capture these little tiny storms.
And you're pulling it from national?
No, we have CSL rain gauges that we put in. They're just in the wrong location.
How many do you have?
We have 3, and then we look at national. So we've had to kind of like consolidate the data to be able to get it to match, because the initial model run under predicted what we actually captured.
Have you looked at radar rainfall in order to approximate it that way?
Right now, we're just using the 5-minute data. We haven't looked at radar. It's not a bad idea. Radar scope or something like that, we can get it from.
Yeah, I mean, you have to validate it with your 4 locations that you have, but it might be pretty powerful for how small your drainage area is.
There's huge variance between
All right,
rain
you're
gauge,
welcome.
the city rain gauges.
And that's what we're finding. So these summer storms are, you know, we know what we get from tunnel. It's easy, it's level. easiest thing to figure out. It's the host run side where we're getting all this flow to the plant. It's not going anywhere but through the plant.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, and we don't have communications in the pump station too, so when you ask, what's the tunnel level? You have to wait for somebody to walk up the steps to tell you. Because they don't have service down there. Right?
Yes.
So,
So it's 15 stories of walking.
It's one of the systems that's still to be started up in the pump set.
It's a highly aerobic process.
It's the repeater that allows cell phones to work.
and I think everybody who's working on this now, we have this whole SOP in place of when we're on site, when we're on call. And it rains at like 2 a.m. and I'm up without my contacts in trying to figure out how much flow we had in the tunnel. So we're all like invested in seeing how this thing's operating. What do you mean we didn't get flown? We had to get flown.
Somebody go down there.
And that's what, so then somebody goes down, and like, the level's at 117, I'm like, see?
Now, this is an exciting topic.
So for a little bit of a change of pace, I'm going to come talk to you about how we're managing PFAS in our biosolids. So we've spoken a little bit before about the new biosolids regulations that were passed in the General Assembly this year. The first one is really taking that tiered approach for biosolids. It establishes thresholds for PFOA and PFOS, below which you can land apply unrestricted and above which you have restrictions on land application. And those thresholds become more stringent in 2029. So the current threshold is a concentration of PFOA or PFOS at 25 ppb. In 2029, that becomes an additive threshold, so PFOA and PFOS. So it will become more stringent. Related, the General Assembly also passed legislation requiring quarterly testing of industrial users. So pretreatment authorities like AlexRenew need to work within their sewer shed in their industry within their sewer shed to implement a quarterly testing program. Luckily, we've already been working with our SIUs here in the city and in the parts of Fairfax County that.
What is an SIU?
Oh, sorry, Mr. Beal. An SIU is a permitted industry within your pretreatment program. So there are thresholds for the size and type of industry that you must permit. And so in the city of Alexandria, we have 3 significant industrial users of our POTW. And then in the Fairfax portion that comes to us, there are 2 significant industrial users. Now, I have some slides in the future that I'll go through who those industries are that we've permitted. But thank you for that question. I'm sorry for the jargon. I just so it requires quarterly testing and reporting from certain industries within the city, and if no PFAS are detected, it will be hard because PFAS are everywhere. The facility may be able to reduce that requirement. So I've presented this slide before. It shows our quarterly monitoring. In January and December of this year, we moved to monthly monitoring because we saw that the legislation in advance of the requirement for the General Assembly to get a better idea of what we're seeing on a month-to-month basis. We see that concentrations of PFOA and PFOS in our biosolids are pretty variable. And sometimes they are above that regulatory threshold of 25 million, which is a risk for the continued land application of our biosolids. As I was mentioning, we've also been looking at PFAS in the liquids in our collection system. So we've done sampling on the main interceptors and at all 5 of those industries that are permitted through pre-treatment programs in the city and at Fairfax County that drain to the AlexRenew wastewater treatment plant. We've spoken about this before, so we've updated this with new results. The sampling in our collection system shows that currently we are within normal residential ranges for PFOA and PFOS in our influent. And when we break it down by the interceptors that are primarily residential, so we have the top 4 interceptors that serve primarily households. And then homes run trunk sewer is where all of our industrial clients drain into. We don't see a significant difference in PFOA or PFOS concentrations. They're pretty variable when you compare the most residential interceptors and the one that's most industrially impacted, I would say. And finally, when we look at the data that we have for our 3 industries that we permit here in the city of Alexandria, Reworld, Innova Alexandria, and Alsco. Alsco is a commercial laundry. We see that they do discharge, and not surprisingly, they do discharge PFOA and PFOS, but not in high concentrations that would measurably impact the concentrations that we're seeing in our influent. And we've recently got results from the 2 industries, Innova Fairfax and the Washington Post, that are the 2 industries in the Fairfax portion of the watershed. And again, we're not seeing that they are major contributors of PFOA or PFOS to the plant.
Before we flip up that slide though, how big are the sample sizes here?
So for the interceptors and for the 3 industries in Alexandria, 2 samples.
Okay, so still very fresh data.
It's
new
very
data.
new data, and we may see some temporal variability.
Sure.
And they are only grab samples. So, you know, we go out and grab. So it's not, we're not taking a composite sample for days. We don't know if at 9 p.m. somebody is putting floor wax down the drain. But again, these are really low concentrations in the parts per trillion, and we're seeing variability in our solids, but and in our influent, but no, there's kind of no smoking gun yet. We will get more data through the SIU sampling program that's been mandated by the state. So we expect to continue to do this analysis and to see if there is an industry that we could work with through the pretreatment program to change the chemicals that they're using or find ways to remove PFAS from what they're discharging.
Do we calibrate our sampling and our measurement with any standard? I mean, it's got to be wicked hard to measure something in parts per billion, right? I mean,
Mr. Hill, I love that you said wicked being from Boston. It is. So we use a standard method 1633A, which is a standard method that has been developed by EPA. And so through the development of that standard method, there are calibration and quality assurance checks. And we did do some additional data that we did do. We did do kind of some round robin between different labs, because different labs have different equipment. They implement the method in different ways. And where we saw variability is in the, it's called the method detection limit. Some were higher and some were lower, but which means, you know, below that method detection limit, you have less confidence in the concentration that they would report. But we were seeing similar concentrations across the board when we compared some labs. But we chose the lab that for right now had the lowest method detection limit that would provide us the most confidence in the samples.
so we aren't doing this measurement.
No.
We're contracting it
We're
out.
contracting it out to highly specialized labs.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So with the sampling, we've kind of come to a realization We are finding concentrations of PFOA and PFOS in our biosolids that sometimes are above that regulatory limit for restricted land applications. However, in our collection system, there's not an apparent industry that we could work with to lower their contributions to the plant, and that might lower those concentrations in our biosolids. So we've taken a more proactive mitigation approach that really focuses on continuing to test and monitor to see if to see that variability, to get better clarity on the data and on what's coming into us, but to proactively halt the land application of biosolids. It's very difficult if we were to one day get a sample, if we were to get a sample that said you cannot land apply anymore, to immediately pivot to a new biosolids disposal methodology. So we've done that proactively to be able to maintain our biosolids production. And the way we've done that is we've partnered with our local waste energy facility, Reworld, and found a disposal outlet at Fairfax, at their Reworld Fairfax facility. And then we're also we're working with landfills and our biosolids hauler Synagro to find landfill capacity should Reworld ever have an outage that happens. And in order to do maintenance, then we'd have an alternative to land application. And finally, in the long term, we are investing in our biosolids diversification program to dry our biosolids. We've spoken about it a number of times, but by drying the biosolids, we're increasing the energy value of those biosolids so that they can provide, we're reducing the volume, increasing the energy value, and that dried pellet can then be used to not only dispose of at Reworld Fairfax, but we can dispose of them here in Alexandria, that's a smaller facility, generate energy for Alexandria and potentially generate energy for other industries. I know Mr. Carl spoke with the Mint company that is potentially interested in using biosolids pellets in their kilns to fire their kilns. So it offers us a variety of outlets.
1 second before you leave the slide. I think for the board, I think we looked at risk with respect to land application of biosolids, and the values that will be in our permit in July 2027, the 25 and 50 parts per billion, those are statistical averages, right? They're statistical averages based on a testing in the Midwest, in a Midwest state that were averages for that specific state, and they've been plucked and used throughout the United States and don't represent anything that has to do with human health and impacts on human health when we think about land application. So I think part of this is just long-term risk of land applying biosolids. Now that we do have a limit on it, there's nothing saying that limit is protective of human health. So for us, I think it makes sense to, and we said this, we mentioned this to the board going through the budget process, pivot away from land application and get ahead of the game as well with respect to our local incineration partners and our midterm plan until we can build either pyrolysis gasification or a magic black box that makes it all disappear. So I think for us, it's really a risk management approach, long-term for the utility in pivoting away from land application now that there's a number associated with our biosolids. And that number leaves with our truck and it goes to the farm. And it's not just that numbers that's reported to the farm, it's all 40 analytes that we can test for are being reported. So that's a piece of paper we're handing to somebody else to say, here you go, here's what we're putting on your farm. It's the right thing to do, but long-term risk, I think it's in our best interest to pivot away from that approach. And it's been done for a really long time. I think our entire staff are now, believers that moving away from land app is the right thing. And I don't think that you're going to get to hear that from most people in the industry. You hear people behind the scenes saying, hey, we need to look for an alternative when we can't land apply. We are not land applying since June 19th. Very different. Allison wasn't very on the nose with that one.
I think the presentation is very clear. Actually.
Mr. Barrett, did you
The
have?
date is in there.
Yes.
That's why the date is in there.
The pivoting, going away from land application, did you have to report that to the state?
We did.
And how did the state take it?
So we made a similar presentation to Virginia DEQ, Northern Regional Office and Central Office. And I think the comment, DEQ understands the regulatory risk, and they will get into in addition to the environmental benefit of not distributing PFAS all over the Commonwealth that Justin alluded to. There's also this offered us an opportunity to look at other sustainability benefits. So we presented to them about the GHG emission reductions, the nutrient reductions, you have an issue with nutrient runoff. And we talked to them about the energy potential. They really understand why a community like Alexandria would go this route, because distances to truck biosolids for land application are only getting longer. We're right now at 90 miles on average, but it'll be 120, and permitting farms for land application is also becoming tougher as farmers make informed decisions about what they want to put on their farms. So they understand why we're moving away from this. However, they still support land application of biosolids in certain situations, and I think that's probably the right environmental decision to make based on concentrations of PFAS in your biosolids, your proximity to land application sites. Those are all local decisions that need to be made.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think this is a good approach and it's smart to mitigate the risk associated with this. Justin, I don't remember if it was on the conversation we were talking with DEQ together or another one that I had. I was surprised when folks were starting to talk about, hey, this regulation's coming and we may pivot away from an application. DEQ was really concerned about the cheap nutrients that farms were receiving through this and concerned about that. That was kind of a wild card in one of those discussions. I can't remember. So I was wondering, when you were kind of presenting that, did they throw that back into the fold, or are they kind of, for Alexandria, for AlexRenew, they understand?
Yeah, so you're correct. With headquarters in Richmond, we had that presentation. There was a reaction of, well, what are the farmers going to do for fertilizer? Not the fertilizer business, but I get it. Northern Virginia are where our permit was. They were supportive, as Ms. Dinas mentioned, of our approach to it. And yeah, I think enthusiastically supportive. They were happy that we were moving in this direction.
They try to be environmental benefit, but I think they still want to preserve land application where they can.
Gotcha.
Question for you. To do something environmentally good is hardly ever a net cost benefit. There's some costs. What's our cost of land application, and what is our cost at the current time with the wet biosolids on an annualized basis?
That's a great question, Mr. Hicks. Last year, we spent about $1.4 million in hauling and land application. This year, we're projecting that we're going to spend about $2.6 million to dispose of our biosolids.
What's a net of $1 million too? Roughly.
Then a net of $1 million too.
Thank you.
Two comments. First, within 3 or 4 months of the General Assembly's legislation, you pivoted. That's not a pivot. That's more a quick step, I think. But this is something to brag about.
Yeah. Sounds bad, Mr. Beal.
No,
We were planning, I think, before the General Assembly session started. I think we've been planning this for probably a year. And because we had all our ducks in a row, we were able to, it appears that it's a quick step, but we were able to quickly pivot
yes,
and leverage
that's a compliment.
Oh.
It's not. It's a compliment. You moved very quickly.
I'm not good with those.
And you need to get used to it. But this is something to brag about. And, I'm not I'm not sure there are very many people that are that interested, but it's still worth bringing about.
Now you're making him happy. He literally said that before the meeting.
He's a marketing guy.
Go ahead. I've got one more, but go ahead.
Dr. Juan?
Yeah, and I just, piggyback on what Mr. Beal is saying. He is absolutely right. It's just a general comment. We had a meeting with DC Water's Environmental and Quality Committee, which is chaired by Mr. Christopher Harrington from Fairfax. And DC Water has this bloom. They are very proud of it. And we have a very good, director of recovery, which is Chris Piat, but AlexRenew's name was cited there in a very positive way. And even the recommendation was to Mr. Piat to reach out to Mr. Carl. So I agree with Mr. Bill,
Thank you, Dr.
So you
Juan.
guys are very, are seen basically on doing basically the right thing and, trying to get ahead of these issues. So it's just something I wanted to let you guys know. I don't know if Chris Pia reached out to you yet, Mr. Carl.
I think so, unless our spam captured it.
What is the ReWorld incinerates this?
You do.
There are some emissions. What are the emissions? What is and I think the difference, if you live in Alexandria, and if you look at this, that yes, there's greenhouse gases in trucking this down south 90 miles, but the gases are all down there. These are emissions that are coming right here.
It's true. We've contracted to do a thorough analysis of the emissions, and so I don't have those numbers yet, but we are in the process of working with a team to mirror something that was done by Fairfax County to look at overall greenhouse gas emissions and the net environmental benefits and costs of these alternatives. So I look forward to presenting to you guys on that in the future.
We responded to some questions from EPC related to that. And some of the initial preliminary data, this has been studied extensively in municipal solid waste. So Fairfax County hired CDM to do this entire sustainability analysis of using the Fairfax Real World facility. So we have a lot of data with respect to emissions of municipal solid waste. It's not specifically emissions related to organic biosolids, which we would expect to be significantly less than solid waste. But the presentation the study was done, was presented at SWANA in 2025. We caught wind of it. We saw it. We hired CDM to come on board and leverage their expertise within this local region. It was done for Fairfax and DC, taking their municipal solid waste to Rewalt Fairfax for incineration. So we're going to try and mimic that, but with a focus on biosolids and show that the emissions are not significant, or the environmental benefits outweigh the impact. That's our goal. I think we just got that contract.
Yeah, we do. We just signed the task order. So we're looking to kick it off in the next month or so.
We're really excited about that piece.
This is good stuff. This is really good stuff.
It's been very exciting to be able to work on this. Just, again, we talked about this before. We are taking this three-pronged approach. We have an interim solution of disposal at Fairfax Reworld of our wet cake or undried biosolids. In parallel, we have the biosolids diversification project that's ongoing, that's upgrading our solid equipment here at the plant that will allow us to thermally dry those biosolids, creating a pellet that's low in water, high in energy, a smaller amount. And then the plan is to bring those here to the facility here in Alexandria to not only dispose of them, but to generate energy for the city, green energy for the city. So I have my colleague, Mr. Phillips, here with me. Because after we signed the contract, Mr. Phillips has been implementing this project, working really closely with his counterparts at Reworld Fairfax to make sure that logistically, environmentally, that we are, when we go to Reworld Fairfax, that their biosolids are being disposed of. And he is I should have given him a photo credit. He is the photographer who took the picture on the right of the first day that our biosolids were delivered to the facility in Fairfax. As you can see, we have end dump trucks, and they basically dump them on the floor, and they get pushed into the pit where they're co-incinerated with municipal solid waste. Since we did the initial pilots on the 17th and 18th of June, we have seen no interruptions in this disposal method. Reworld has been operating very reliably. They've taken up to 5 loads of biosolids in one day, and which was more than we had expected them to be able to take. And we have not had any interruptions or slowdowns in our ability to process biosolids, which is something that we are watching really closely.
If we could, let's stay on this wonderful picture for a minute. So an average day, 5 of those?
So
That's a,
on an average day, it's 2.
Okay.
So, but on some days when we're catching up over the weekend, or if there's a long weekend or a holiday, we may take up to 5 loads because we don't haul over the weekend. So they were able to accept our maximum haul.
and that has water content of 30-ish%.
Yeah.
Okay.
74%. So it has a solids content of about 26%. So it's like wet dirt.
And they can burn it.
And they can burn it as long as it's mixed in with enough.
And they're taking it up to well over 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. And at that temperature, research shows that
Right.
most PFAS, most
Right.
of those carbon fluorine bonds are broken.
Broken.
Yep.
Wow. I mean, we were talking about this just a couple months ago, and now it's reality.
Really elegant solution. Reworld have been really excellent partners with us, communicating closely with Chuck. We plan loads in advance, a week in advance, and they've been flexible with us as we've had to shift things around. So, would you agree?
Now, are any other wastewater treatment plants in the area working with Reworld in this manner?
Well, I believe Fairfax, Noman Cole has been talking to Reworld, and we are also going to meet with Arlington County next Thursday, to talk about this approach and kind of walk them through what we did.
Fairfax has their own incinerator.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bill's got his own incinerator. It's nice.
It is nice.
No, I read the article about PFAS in this
Yeah.
journal. And if I remember correctly, if you take it up over 1,000 degrees,
Yep.
you can take out 80% of the PFAS.
When we modeled this, so we did some initial laboratory scale tests. And when we took a sample of our biosolids and ran it through a lab-sized incinerator that was modeled off of how Reworld operates, we were seeing upwards of 99.99% reduction of PFAS across all media like air, ash. But those are at ideal circumstances, right? So in the real world, you would expect.
So 2 things. I think Mr. Winchell presented to us, I don't know, I think it was January. It's turbulence, residence time, and temperature. All 3 have to come into play. And I know he sent an article out to the board that Reworld had recently done a study with EPA regarding 2 of their facilities where they're showing that with not biosolids, but municipal solid waste, that they're getting that 99.9% reduction of PFAS in MSW. Not, which is way higher in concentration of PFAS than our biosolids. Ours specifically, not in general, ours specifically. So they came out with that study in late June showing that a similar data that residence time, temperature, and turbulence with a great type incinerator like this one, they're able to achieve that reduction.
Generate heat in the process.
John,
Whatever the
1100
remaining
degrees
PFAS
centigrade.
is, does it go up the chimney and become air particles, or does it stay with the ash?
Mr. Jinks, that's a great question.
Because it stays with the ash has enough line in it. It's like concrete when you put it in a landfill. So if it's in the ash, it's locked up in perpetuity.
It's virtually indetectable. So it's, with the current methods, it 99.99%.
They're looking at the molar level.
It's
It's great.
John, 1100 degrees centigrade is 2000 degrees Fahrenheit.
It's hot.
That's hot.
It's hot.
That's hot enough, it doesn't make any difference.
we also have been trying to compare these different options using other environmental factors. Sorry.
Don't worry.
I thought we were gonna get that.
Okay, we've got the hard copy too.
So we've been looking at particularly GHG emissions, greenhouse gas emissions from hauling. And so we had presented before the greenhouse gas emission reductions from hauling to the Alexandria site. And obviously the Fairfax site is farther away and there's more volume that we're hauling. So however, we do see significant greenhouse gas emission reductions from hauling alone. So right now we're seeing an 81% reduction in the greenhouse gas emissions from hauling. And in the future, we're looking at a 98% reduction, which is pretty substantial, pretty exciting. And then finally, just some key takeaways from the presentation. There's new legislation now. AlexRenew has been working to respond to the new legislation, particularly around PFAS and biosolids. We've been able to come up with an interim solution that mitigates the risk and provides good environmental benefit. And then in the long term, we're still moving towards drying our biosolids and being able to use them to produce energy locally. And then finally, in addition to the environmental benefits that we talked about before, things like not distributing PFOA or PFOS, and we see other environmental benefits, including greenhouse gas emissions reductions, and we are looking to dig into that further.
Thank you. All this was being done while we were also building the tunnel.
Walking and chewing gum.
I can barely do that.
They're gonna be looking
We're
for
here.
problems to solve.
8 hours a day, 5 days a week.
They're bored.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
There are a lot of problems further up the river, you know, that you could work on. No, I meant more on,
Okay,
you know what I meant.
There's a big settling pond in the middle of the mall. Some attention.
So wanted, that would be such a good project. Just a mini treatment plant.
I know people. Here we go.
All right, good evening, folks.
Tonight, we're going to be taking review an overview of the nutrient reduction proposed contract packaging as we start taking off the basis of design and really getting into this project as a whole.
Yes, I think just remembering the nutrient reduction project is part rehab of our tertiary system and part expanding the plant by an additional 4 MGD to meet our load allocations and allow Alexandria to continue to grow by 4 MGD. That this has been something we've been working on since 2013. It was identified in the city's sanitary sewer master plan and a way to come up with capacity that's needed at the plant. And between the city, Fairfax, and AlexRenew, we came up with a plan to, in the interim, Fairfax will sell 2.2 MGD of their capacity to the city. That would give the city the capacity they needed in the interim while we build the 4 MGD expansion project, which, that 2032, 2033 timeframe. When we build the future 4 MGD expansion at the plant, what that does, it gives Fairfax back their 2.2 MGD and it gives us 1.8 MGD for Alexandria, making us all whole and changing our cost share between AlexRenew and Fairfax from 60/40 to 56/44. So there's a typo on that very first left box. It should be 60/40 and we're moving to 56/44. But I think thanks to the city and Fairfax, we had a letter agreement to agree on this approach. Fairfax and city have been working through their processes to get this 2.2 MGD capacity sale. Is it done now?
Just need the county exec to sign it.
All right. So it's gone
It's
through
on
the
his desk.
process, just needs to sign. And then what we'll do when that's signed is we'll update our capital plan to make sure we're tracking costs appropriately with this 56/44% cost share as opposed to 60/40. And I think we presented in the past to the board on what those impacts are in the budget. They're not significant impacts to our Alex only operating budget. So city will end up with 23.8 MGD for the last half of this year. And then when we get this project that Mr. Pilot's going to discuss implemented, we restore that capacity share to Fairfax and give the city the additional 1.8 they need for their 4 MGD. Initially contemplated in 2013, 20 years later, Eric.
Some things take time.
We had to build the tunnel first.
A quick reminder, so this is one of 4 projects that falls under the phase 1 umbrella alongside biosolids diversification, headworks, and the process optimization project. So this has been our last project to get out the door and under contract with the design builder back in January. It's primarily serves 2 major functions: replacing aging equipment in our tertiary system and addressing the future nutrient reduction required for the MGD expansion. So quick overview of what this project is. We're primarily located on the west side of the wastewater treatment plant here. And the first component is the upgrades and replacements of existing equipment, aging infrastructure associated with the tertiary tanks and filter upgrades. So just like the last, I think the other 3, or really other 2 major phase 4 projects, biosolids and headworks, we're at about that 20-25 year range where we have to start replacing and upgrading equipment. So we did some studies back in 2020 to identify major pieces of equipment and overall process improvements and rehabilitation necessary, and then ultimately combine that into a project that resulted into the nutrient reduction project. So these are primarily upgrades to the tertiary filters, the tertiary settling tanks, replacing overall pumps, blowers, chemical systems, piping, kind of things just to get the equipment, tanks, and filters back up and running and in a good condition. In addition to that, it's the 4 MGD expansion, the design and construction necessary to support the city's growth by 4 MGD. That's going to look at overall optimization of the biological reactor basin, and also possibly adding constructing up to 6 new filters and using existing filters as denitrification. So overall project schedule is shown here. Really 3 distinct things, design, and then construction of the tertiary settling tanks, and then construction of the 4 MDD expansion. We're focused now up front about doing the design of the tertiary settling tanks and then the construction of those, because we've recognized through our study that this is equipment and a process that we really need to make sure is up to snuff and supporting the overall treatment process here. The construction and design of 4MDD expansion is something that's occurring a little bit later in the project, but is actually occurring concurrently with the design now. So this spells out, the action dates, and as well as how we're going to be packaging the nutrient reduction project. So this is a progressive design build. So there's really two primary components. There's the design aspect of it, and then the construction. And so we've identified these different buckets, and we're going to be presenting them to the board ahead of each amendment and change order that comes for review. So we've executed the initial contract back in January. This is essentially preliminary engineering, pre-construction to define the basis of design. As we've been working with the design builder, we started to lay out, what makes sense for doing the critical upgrades to our tanks and filters, and then how we're going to manage and the design and the construction for the overall 4MDD expansion. So the change order that we're going to take a look at tonight is primarily focused on the final design of the tertiary settling tanks. That's a little different than our past CMARs, where amendments have been primarily for construction. Under this project, we have design, change orders that get reviewed and approved by the board, and then amendments like the CMARs for execution of construction. So this meeting again is focused on change order 1. In November, we are going to be presenting for the board for review and approval change order 2, which would be final design of further improvements to the tertiary system, and as well as an amendment for actually procuring that settling tank equipment for construction. So,
Still sounds bad, we call it.
yeah, I know. I don't like the sound of it, but that's.
It's just so from the way we set up our, see Aaron's making a face. Contractually, the way the progressive design build contract is set up, it is administratively easier than going through a whole amendment process. And we've contemplated this work to happen already. For the design phases, it's commonplace to execute those design changes via a change order. They're not actually changes; they're in the scope, but it's a change order to the initial contract. Of what was the initial contract? Of 4 million?
Yeah, a little less than 4 million.
So if you go back to that slide, those change orders were already contemplated. You could easily call those amendments, but that's not the contract vehicle to do it. We always change orders always negatively associated that we forgot something or didn't cost something out. That's not the case here.
Yeah, kind of cringed when we decided how these are going to be change orders. Seemed like a good start to the project, but anyway, so the nutrient reduction, our first change order is really for the final design for the major scope elements for our 8 tertiary settling tanks. So there's 3 buckets of these are equipment repair and upgrades. So improvements to mixing equipment, flocculators, our plate settlers, sludge collection system, kind of all the components that make sure that the tertiary the tertiary settling tanks can function as intended. The second component of that is the assessment and design of structural repairs of concrete throughout these various tanks. And then third is the planning and kind of overall incorporation into the design for how we're actually going to do the construction of this, how we're going to train our staff, and then the commission. So it's that early advanced planning that we kind of learned from our past project that's critical to get into the design documents now. So a lot of the issues that you then run into during construction with trying to take equipment offline, not realizing what you can and can't do, really gets ironed out and baked into the contract now. And everybody's on the same page about what we're doing. That's our staff as well as the design program. So here's our overall evolution of project capital cost slide, which we include in all of our phase forward slide decks. So, we're about at the concept level right now with where we are at the current stage of the project. So within our band, we've highlighted that yellow arrow that indicates about a little under plus 50% for the upper range and minus 30% in terms of our cost certainty overall for the project. As we further define designs, execute more amendments, and get more price certainty, that band then becomes narrow and shrinks as we ultimately get to completion. So overall project capital costs as of July 1, 2026. So we are still at the $190 million for total capital costs, consistent with FY 2027 budget. We've identified major contract change orders and amendments that make up the whole of the overall capital projects, including owner to advisor, CM and RE costs. Our initial contract which was executed back in January for about $3.5 million. And then the design change order, which we're currently preparing and will be presenting to the board for review in September, is around $1.4 million. The bulk of the remaining change orders, you can kind of see a slight increase in value because the complexity of those designs increases with the remaining scope and budget. And then all in for amendments 1, 2, and 3 for construction, we're somewhere around just shy of about $155 million for total for construction. As far as next steps here, starting on the bottom right, we will be submitting a change order, a design change order 1 memo for review and approval in September 2026. The design of the tertiary tank upgrades will then commence in the fall. We'll come back in November of 2026 for change order 2 design review and amendment 1, which is equipment procurement. Complete the design in fall 2027 and then begin construction in the winter 2027. So this fall we're seeing a lot of activity from the board to make sure we get this project running and get our equipment upgraded and vehicles with this. Questions?
This would be just an observation. For the last 7 years, looking at AlexRenew, we'd always track that burn report, that nice upward sloping burn report. Phase forward is now so big, and AlexRenew is largely done. I'm wondering, Mr. Carl, do we need to create a burn report for phase forward?
You do that. We have enough room on our new dashboard.
Yeah. Either the 4 parts of it or as a whole?
Probably as a whole.
Yeah, it's easy to overlook how big that is altogether. Yeah.
Right now, we just had a table on there, but we can certainly put a cash flow on there for you.
Yeah.
We have room.
Good. So the only constraint is geography on.
We just redid it for this meeting. Make things smaller, put it on the back.
Thank you.
So we'll bring a memo to September. It's going to be, we have a gap of 2 months. So it'll be, this will come back in a memo in September for approval.
Great.
And is that cost estimate about where we're going to land?
Yeah, right.
Monthly report.
Yep.
Again, this is closing out fiscal year 2026. So it's our last report of the year. So if we look at the page 2, kind of need to look how much we spent on our job order contracts this year of 14.8 million. And then our BOA is at 8.4 million. That's going to reset in your next board report to 0 or whatever we've incurred in fiscal year 2027, so we can keep tracking it back to the fiscal year we're in. Mr. Akmakube is gonna come up really quick and give us a preliminary year-end report on our budget. And actually, my consent.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I hate to disappoint you all that I do not have a presentation slide, but I will do my best to make the presentation as suited and as that you've seen, okay? So if you look at the monthly report you have on you, page 5, table 5.1.
Yep.
Again, these are preliminary numbers for FY 2026, subject to year-end and audit entry adjustment. These preliminary numbers are subject to change. That being said, we have a total revenue of approximately 190 million, and that's about 68 million under budget. Now, the breakdown of the 190 million in revenue includes a wastewater treatment charge of approximately 64 million for the year, which is about $1 million under budget, primarily due to lower than anticipated late fees collected for the year. That is offset by the Fairfax.
This is the first year we presented our budget, and we were almost on target for wastewater treatment charge. Every other year, we're 2 to 3% off.
Yeah.
Last year, remember, we had the late fee issue, so we overcompensated for that this year, but we still came in. I'm happier we collected a little under budget than over budget from previous years. So that's a first in 4 years.
So add to Mr. Carl's point, we budgeted $1.5 million for late fees, and for FY 26 preliminary, we collected just about 700,000. So 800,000 of that $1 million is due to the overestimation of late fees. Okay. Again, the $1 million under budget with wastewater treatment charge is offset with the Fairfax operating charge, which is also $1 million above budget, primarily due to higher than anticipated flows from Fairfax. The actual flows for the year ended up at 44%, which is identical to the flows coming into the treatment plan last year as well. Fairfax capital contribution at 42 million. That's about $17 million on the budget, primarily due to lower capital execution and spending, which also leads to lower debt and other sources. We ended up the year with 68 million, and that's about 51 million on the budget as well. Again, due to lower capital execution and spending.
Primarily in AlexRenew or?
No, just all across.
All across.
Yeah, AlexRenew is almost done now, so it's really all of the project outside of it.
Is it a schedule issue or what? What is the reason for that?
I can't hear you, Dr. One, I'm sorry.
No, I'm saying, is it, what is the reason for that? If you said all the other project, is it scheduling issue or contractor behind? What is that?
A big part, so one of the projects included in CIP was the Phase Forward project. So during the FY 26 budget, when we put that together, we anticipated starting a little bit sooner than we actually did. But
and we also de-scoped one of the projects that was going to spend $20 million this year. So we did not go forward with that work.
Okay.
So that was significant as well.
So Dr. One, you could tie it to the timing of the project.
I wouldn't say it's behind schedule. On Headworks, we de-scoped it by, I think it was $15 or $20 million that we didn't spend this year.
Okay.
So that got delayed. That money just got pushed, Dr. Wan, into the future.
Okay, thank you.
Operating expense ended at 37.6 million. This is 3.3 or about 2.2% below budget, primarily due to the 2.5 million operating reserve set aside for the alternative biosolid disposal. As Ms. Diners alluded to earlier, their contract was just executed in June of 2026, so we did not use the 2.5 million as anticipated because we thought it was going to start sooner, but did not really start pretty much to beginning of FY 27. Debt service was pretty much on target, a little bit above budget to the tune of $200,000, but that is due to the timing of the field draw for the AlexRenew project. Capital spending, including the INR project, is approximately $132 million spent for the year, and that's about like 65 million under budget. Again, that ties back to the lower Fairfax contribution and the lower debt proceed we see on the revenue side, why they were below budget. So overall, when looking at the revenue and expenses, primarily the operating revenue and operating expenses, we have a net positive budget variance of $3 million, and this is inclusive of the $2.5 million in operating reserves not spent in FY 2026, which will be spent in FY 2027 now that we've executed the contract with Fairfax Reward. Turning to tables 5.2 and 5.3 on page 6 of the monthly report, this talks about financial compliance. First is looking at our days cash on hand. So we ended up the year at 711 on a board financial target goal of 270 days. This is actually the 711 days is actually 81 days lower than last year's where we ended up for FY25. FY25 we ended up at 792 days. And Mr. Jakes, I know we've looked at our days cash on hand over the years. They've been substantially higher than 711, and we've said we are going to keep spending those cash down as the year progresses along and as we finish up AlexRenew and start another project. And we're starting to see that. That 711 days cash is actually in line with the AAA median, which is actually about 713 days. The debt, the table 5.3, the debt coverage ratio ended up the year at 2.2 on the board financial policy of 1.6, also better than the budget target of 2.0. That's how I'm saying.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, and that's the year-end number.
That's the year-end number.
So
again, preliminary numbers subject to change, but we don't see anything that at this point that's going to change.
During the year, that
fluctuate
back and forth, right?
Correct. Yes, sir.
At the end of the year, that's the one that counts.
That's the one that counts. Yes, sir. This is based on an annual 12-month.
Very good.
All right. Okay, before I move to the audit, any questions so far about the preliminary financial update?
Very good.
Right. The FY 2026 audit is currently underway on a target to be completed no later than November 30th, which is in line with our financial policy. The FY 2026 audit result will be presented to the Finance and Audit Committee meeting at the Financial and Audit Committee meeting in November. The audit, similar to last year, includes two major parts. One is the financial audit, making sure financial statements are fairly stated. And the other piece is the single audit. This is a compliance audit required for any public entity with $1 million or more in federal award in a fiscal year. As you already know, the WIFIA loan used to fund the AlexRenew project is a federal award. Okay, so our single audit is primarily focused on that. Now, a little bit update about the ongoing audit. The first set of deliverables were due yesterday to the auditors, and everything as requested from the auditors has been submitted to them and was submitted to them on time. That deliverables mostly covers the single audit as well as some preliminary field work. The next set of deliverables are due to the auditors the first week of September, with the final set of deliverables due towards the end of October. Again, all in schedule and all in line so far to meet our target to complete in the month of November and present that to the Finance and Audit Committee November. Questions so far? Weekend sweetheart.
Thank you.
Sometime when you're dealing with finance, sometimes being dull is good.
Yes, sir.
Just really quick on delinquencies. Exciting to see that growth.
All right. Really quick, so we saw a pretty dramatic decrease in delinquent accounts this month at 105 accounts paid. So that puts us at 668, which at least since I've worked here is the lowest number we've seen. I'm not exactly sure where we'll find the bottom. Prior to COVID, it was around 100 to 200 accounts. I think it might be a little higher now because we've implemented such a prolific payment plan policy. Also, just noting, we only disconnected 20 customers last month because of the hot weather. We're not allowed to disconnect everything. We flip to, well, I guess we could cover the Leap dashboard real quick. Sorry, Caitlin. Okay, so I'll point out a few things. We talked about this in the last presentation. We're at 240 customers assisted, which equals about 10 customers per month since the inception of the program. Again, we only disconnected 20 customers this month. Otherwise, it's a pretty, I'll say, standard report month to month. I did want to point out on the last page, just after our conversation around adjustments in payment policy, you can kind of see how this would play out in real life in a few examples. So if you look at the first account to the left, $393, they would still have about $600 left that they could access later in the year. So giving them another opportunity. And then if you look at, I'll pick the third one over because it's a larger bill. If you took them, they would get the $1,000 Leap disbursement, and then what remained, if they went on a 12-month payment plan, they would receive another $331. So they get kind of a shot at the Leap assistance. And then the other piece of that is if they're on a 12-month payment plan and they make it 10 months, they can come back maybe 2 months later. So they can, you can see how this will play out and kind of help dramatically reduce some of the higher debt as we go forward. I think it's going to be very beneficial. Any questions? And then finally, I just wanted to say thank you all for sweating it out with us on July 1st. I think it was really well attended of it. And additionally, so it was a busy month throughout June as well. The one thing I want to point out is we did host 2 very large school programs, which was really neat for our staff. They got to come out and kind of share what they did. Give a lot of folks that work here opportunities to kind of show new career paths to potential employees / students. So we had the Volunteer Alexandria's Youth and Service Program, and then the City Alexandria Summer Youth Program. Kind of great opportunities for us and the students. That's all I have.
Could we just turn back to the first page of the Leap dashboard?
Yeah.
One. The 240 customers assisted. Are those 240 unique customers over the past 2 years?
That's a good question. So I asked for a report of this a month or 2 ago, and it was about 20 customers. cycled back. through the program.
Re-upped.
So not a terrible, like, honestly, I thought it would be higher. Lower than that. So that gives you some idea.
I wonder if we could sort of pull that out every month, just,
Yeah.
or maybe at the end of each year or whatever.
Yeah.
Works for you.
And I think we'll have to adjust, I should have said this, I think we'll have to adjust this dashboard moving forward, because it's not gonna, once we implement the changes, which might take a month or two, I think the Promise team works pretty quickly. But when we implement them, you're gonna see funds coming in that are, this exact circumstance anymore, so we're gonna have to have a second.
What as somebody in the business, what does somebody re-upping tell you versus somebody who's only in there for 1 year?
Well, I think coming out of COVID, like some of the delinquent total amounts we have, like the arrearage values are in the thousands. So I think that's what you're seeing. Is people coming around that had a $5,000 bill, they got a leave disbursement, and then after 12 months, they qualify for a second leave disbursement. I mean, they can go on a payment plan, but even I think for those large amounts, and we offered extended payment plans for a while to offset that. You could have at one point a 48 month. But I think that's the group that's coming back for a second round. It's the only group that would qualify, honestly.
I mean, one of the best things of the LEAP program is it's giving us insight into our customers that we never had before.
For sure.
How hard is it to pay the bill?
Well, and it's shockingly hard sometimes to even provide a credit.
No, I agree. It would be good to have that broken out into like number of, because I guess this would be 240 disbursements that have been made. So like,
Yeah.
let's put it that way. And then
Number of
of
customers.
those, number of unique
For
customers.
sure.
Yeah, that'd be good.
That's very doable.
Thank you. Great.
All right, revamp phase 4 dashboard. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time here, but we will add the cash flow. As you can see in the schedule, it's early days, 5% complete in biosolids, 8 in headworks. Process optimization is only $10 million, 81% complete there, nutrient reduction, 2%. Total spend to date is about 40 million. And then you can flip over and see the highlights on the backside. Again, our major focus is on the biosolids project, focus on transitioning away from prepass and getting those digester heat exchangers installed, and also doing the pilot program on the sludge mixers that Mr. Piling's team presented last month. Process optimization might be nearly complete by the next time we meet in September.
Great.
Design going on the other stuff. Just 2 announcements at the end of the meeting. Aaron, is this your last meeting? In addition to that, Mr. Robertson got a promotion to Chief Strategic Communications Officer, so congratulations. I believe we have Mr. Jenks for one more meeting in September.
We do.
This council fails to make an appointment.
I think
I'm stuck.
we can make that happen. I think we should make that happen.
Anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Now, I hope the
Aye.
AlexRenew team and the board can enjoy a relaxing August, perhaps. It's been a monumental year. So I hope everybody can